Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, TheFreeRotation Nation. I am your host today, Chris, and I am joined with Becky.
Well, hello there.
And our esteemed leader, Angela.
Hello.
And today we are going to be discussing the recent UFO whistleblower David Grush's statements and kind of what it entails, what's going on, and how it is not new information necessarily, but it's new in the fact that it is a whistleblower that has come forward and is basically beyond reproach, and no one's challenging on it. They're just saying he doesn't have proof. They're not saying he's a liar. They're saying, we don't have proof.
I like that 2023 has become the year of this podcast just being like, here's an episode on one thing and then 4 other episodes about aliens because of everything that's been going on.
Well, it's insanity. And especially for like...
We're like the current events podcast now, except aliens.
People our age who grew up with it being...
Taboo.
If you were into UFOs, you were weird. Like, and I was. Like, I loved
and
all
or
that
crazy.
Shit. Yeah. UFOs aren't real. Aliens don't exist. And you're like, that doesn't make any
sense. And now
sense.
you're just like, oh, we were right.
They're on the way.
Yeah. There may some be here.
I mean, and again, you look at like the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, and like how popular the X-Files was, and it was still taboo. And it was like the #1 show for years, but like you couldn't talk about it with like your friends and stuff, like unless they were also kind of weird, because...
I mean, yeah, it's still so niche, but now it's UFOs. Like you see like every other day something about some sort of unidentified aerial phenomenon being seen on... The thing is, we live in the world of social media and TikTok and all of that, where all of this can be posted. It's kind of hard to hide the truth.
Posted instantly and seen by thousands of people before it can come out.
And again, you get the people that are still faking stuff, or they're posting videos that we know what they are and saying it's UFOs. So occasionally you'll have like the night skydivers that have like the lights on them.
Yeah.
And like, oh, look at the UFOs. And you're like, that's a video from like 4 years ago, bro. Like, what are we doing? So like, you still have to wade through the
bullshit.
There's a ton of it. But even with all the, if you want to call them UAPs or UFOs, whatever, it's all the same thing. Even if it is unidentified to you, that doesn't necessarily mean it's an UFO or an alien. It just means you don't know what it is.
Right.
That happens all the time. Things look weird sometimes through cloud cover or haze or pollution or twilight or dusk or whatever. Not necessarily everything in the sky is aliens. However, some are aliens.
So what has happened now?
So David Grush, who worked for the Air Force, and he specifically worked for the U.S. Air Force National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office. So, and this is not like just some jackass off the street. This is somebody that was involved with top secret and above top secret documents and being able to read them and look at it. And apparently he came across the fact that we had basically what are black operations that were going to recover downed what they're calling exotic craft. They're not saying interdimensional, they're not saying outer space, they're just calling them exotic craft.
Because it has unidentified material.
So, he found out that we had operations that were to go out and recover, retrieve, if there happens to be life forms, grab them, and apparently these were all... When I say black ops, what I mean is they're operating without like congressional oversight.
Gotcha. Which,
as he as a patriot was like, this is not okay. They're hiding this from the American public. They're operating on black budgets that no one knows where the money's going, where it's coming from, who's funneling it off. This is not okay. He went public. And he did an interview. He got with to the 2 writers who actually helped. I think they actually helped David Fravor with the Tic Tac UFO come forward with his information when all that was released in 2017, 2018, all that. He got with the writers that did that once he decided to go public. They shopped the story around to the Post, to the Washington Post, New York Times, The Guardian. For whatever reason, no one denied the story or said they weren't going to post it. They said they needed more time to fact check. So for whatever reason, he said that they didn't have that much time, and they went with the brief and then a couple other things that would post quickly. Again, there's a story floating around that all these other major news outlets turned down his story so they wouldn't do it, which is not true.
Right.
What they said is we need to fact check. It's going to take us
and they need to
weeks
do a background checks on him.
Yeah.
Which, this is coming out that these other high level officials are like, he's beyond reproach.
Yeah,
he is the guy.
Whatever he says is whatever. And what's cool is if you look at any of the people trying to discredit him, even when they bring on like people that are supposed to try to discredit him, no one says he's lying. And there's a reason for that. So this actually started with David Grush in 2019 and 2018 when he found out about all these documents and stuff. And he started going to his superiors and being like, hey, man, this is not okay. We need to tell people, we need to tell the Congress that this is what's going on, that this is where the money's going, that they have no oversight over these files and all these operations. And he started getting threats from inside where he worked and outside where he worked.
Yeah. He said he had retaliation acts, but he wouldn't go into detail about what they were.
So what he did, which is brilliant, he lawyered up. He went and got a very, very well-respected, high-priced, high-powered lawyer who specifically works with whistleblowers most of the time. So when you see these people, no one's willing to say he's lying. Mm-hmm. Even from within the government, because they're going to get sued into oblivion if they find out. And they're also not calling him up to prove he's lying, because if they do, he has to bring documents, supporting documents.
Right. And they don't want people to see it.
Yes. So he's in this weird position where he's super public now. He has a lawyer, and they don't want to cross him, because if they do, he's like, here's the supporting documents. You made me bring them. This is where we're at. They're classified and top secret. You forced it.
Well, now a current naval intelligence officer at NASIC named Jonathan Gray is backing him up, saying, "Oh, he's right about everything."
Yeah, and Gray's not the guy's real last name; it's a pseudo last name.
Yeah,
but it's still that's what, even with the Jonathan Gray guy, they're saying if he needs to come forward, he will. So they really don't. The government doesn't want to push him or try to discredit him by saying he's a liar or a crackpot, because then he burns everything to the ground.
Well, and the easiest way to have somebody discredited or not even acknowledge him, just don't acknowledge him, then you don't have to worry about it, because most people aren't going to, dive too deep into all of this to find out whether he's telling the truth or not. It's when you start perpetuating like, oh, he's lying, or trying to discredit him, or doing anything like that, that it exacerbates it into more media coverage.
Well, you look at, and I guess it was 6 months ago now, Congress said they wanted to have like oversight on all the military's UFO recovery programs, all of their knowledge about it, all their searches, all of their research into it. Like, I don't know, and this is my crackpot theory. I think somebody knows something's going to happen soon. And I think that's why a lot of this is coming out, is because there's going to come a point where they can't hide it. Right. And it's better to, even if you have to let the information out fairly quickly, it's better to let people have a little forewarning than being like,
well,
they're
yeah,
here.
I mean, you have all of these people for years, and I mean, mostly the older generation. I think more younger people do believe in aliens. I think to me, I've said this before, it doesn't make sense not to believe that there's life out there when there's vast expanses of universes that we can't even see past our own half the time. And the thing is, like, it wouldn't make sense not for it to exist, but at the same time to let people know, like, hey, something's out there, just maybe be prepared. Buy a bunch of cans of beans and be prepared for whatever's about to come down.
Well, and this is where we get into the more conspiratorial aspects of it, is where when you go back and look at some of these interviews from some of these ex-government officials, when they say, yes, there are extraterrestrials, there are ETs or ERIBs or whatever they call them, they have been here forever and coming and going, and there are 60 to 70 different species of them, which is why you have the weird different sometimes descriptions. You have the short grays, you have the tall greenish gray aliens, you have the weird looking stuff, like apparently
like the ones that are all legs, the white leg things.
Like apparently there are all these different races, which again, if we are in an infinite universe where life has evolved in however many different ways, sure, makes sense. Not everything's going to look exactly the same. I'm cool with that. But what Grush has said is that when some of this comes out, it's going to upset most of everybody. You're going to need to widen what you believe is possible. Again, I tend to believe in panspermia. I don't necessarily believe we were originally from here. I think we may have been developed for here.
Mhm.
And that's just my personal
I
belief.
believe the same thing.
So if it comes out that the tall grays or the short grays or whatever were like, yeah, we made you guys, 800,000 years ago because we needed
workers.
Workers, or we were just experimenting. Like, this is what we do.
Mhm.
We're scientists. We're intergalactic scientists.
Yeah.
We go see what can happen.
Mhm.
If we can make you smarter, faster, more civilized people rather than just monkeys hanging out in trees.
Because think about it, our bodies aren't built for our atmosphere. We're not built for gravity. We walk on 2 legs and it pulls us down. Everything else tends to walk on 4.
Everything's trying to kill us.
Even
our own bodies.
We don't have hair to protect ourselves from the sun.
It's everything. Again, and our intelligence evolves so much faster than everything else around us. And again, I'm not saying it. I'm just saying what I believe. I'm not saying this is an absolute scientific certainty. I just believe that something kickstarted it.
Well, to me, it makes sense. I don't know necessarily. I'm not. I take everything with a grain of salt, but at the same time, I'm open to whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it makes a lot of sense too, especially if you read like parts of the Bible or parts of a lot of mythology about our origins. It always involves like us being taught something.
Yeah, it's oral histories that have been written down.
Right. Prometheus gave us fire.
There were
in the Bible, the
Nephilim
Watchers gave us fire.
Right.
Somebody's always given us a hand up.
Yeah, God created us in his image and then put us on the earth or whatever.
And even Adam and Eve didn't know fuck all until somebody was like, "Hey, do this and you'll be smart."
Yeah. So I mean, it's not too crazy. And how do you explain something that's unexplainable?
The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence.
Right.
Because we don't have something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We just don't know.
Right.
So that just happens to be my personal belief. You believe whatever you want. I don't care. But I do think that, and I look at it more big picture, like, so let's say they land and maybe they're fleeing something. Maybe they're like refugees and something happened wherever they're from that they can't stay there anymore for whatever reason. Let's say they have to come here and we've agreed to let them through whatever back agency government stuff's going on. If they get here and say that, hey, yeah, we made you guys, 800,000 years ago, to me, I'm like, yeah, okay. But imagine what all these really religious people
I know.
They freak out. They panic. I was talking to my wife about this. She's like, what are they going to do? I'm like, they're going to say they're demons because they're already saying they're demons.
Right.
Like, they believe if aliens exist.
They think it's end times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not, hey, they're coming back, but hey, they're here to destroy us, or they are Satan tempting us, or they're demonic, or whatever. It is going to be chaos for a while.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying. But it doesn't mean that, again, that it shouldn't happen or it doesn't need to, or that they shouldn't prepare us a little bit if it is going to occur.
It's going to be a whole shift in the perspective and reality of our humanity. I think like you read a lot. I think people really do a disservice to themselves that they don't look outside of their religion, especially like I read Pale Blue Dot by Carl Sagan talks about like the idea that we need to be aware that there is probably something out there. It doesn't make any sense, and that we are not the center of the universe. Our sun was the center of our universe, and then people were look at Galileo, look at all these.
It's not even the center of our solar system.
Yeah, look at our scientists that had to walk back that said like, hey, we aren't the center of the universe, and then they were going to get murdered by the Catholic Church, and they're like, guys, we definitely are the center of the, just like something so simple like that. Meanwhile, then you have an entire species of something that appears out of nowhere that says, hey guys, your existence is because of us.
It's going to be bad.
People are going to lose their shit.
They are for a while. And again, I'm not saying if you don't believe in God or whatever, you have to stop doing that. If you do, this could be an extension of that creationist thing.
Right.
That we just didn't know about. Like, we find new species on Earth every single day.
Religions are created every day.
I know.
They're going to create some new religion about this anyways.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
just found a new species of cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens every single day here. So why would we not assume it couldn't happen elsewhere?
Right.
And again, if finding a new species makes your belief not as strong or real, you should probably change your belief, because we do that regardless of what you believe. Like, that just keeps happening.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we haven't even searched our oceans. We haven't searched 75% of the Amazon rainforest. it's hard to say that there's definitely nothing out there.
Say,
we don't know what the hell's here.
You can't even get in the Marianas Trench, and the shit that you see that even if they go like 10 feet down or 10 miles down is scary as shit.
Yeah. And if nothing else, go on the fact that NASA privatized. Hello.
Well, it's not just that. It's also, there's Dr. Stephen Greer, who is, he's a surgeon. He runs the Disclosure Project. He has for the past 30 years. And basically, they go, if there's a UFO sighting, they go look at it, see how credible the sources are, talk to people, figure out if it's an actual thing or if it's just some crackpot hillbilly in the backwoods that saw a shooting star and was like, that's a UFO. And they're like, yeah.
I've never looked at the sky before, and now I see these things twinkling. It's the UFOs.
It's the devil. But he runs a Disclosure Project, and he has been gearing up for the past couple years now, and they're getting, again, he wants to go before Congress. He's the guy that typically, if there are whistleblowers, he's the one to go to because they are very methodical and scientific in how they approach every case, everything. And he tends to believe that they are hiding a lot, not necessarily the Department of Defense or the U.S. government themselves, but a lot of these black operations are hiding things even from the U.S. government, like 0 point energy and... Mm-hmm. Again, if you don't know, 0 point energy is basically if you took a light bulb, full of 0 point, it could boil all the oceans on Earth. That's how much energy it is. It's basically the energy that keeps everything moving, even at absolute zero. It's the thing that causes molecules to not seize up. And being able to harness that would be insanity. Apparently, we can, if you believe Stephen Greer, and they're just refusing to allow it out for whatever reason. And again, it may be... They may consider it national security, or they may be, because it is so powerful, someone will develop it as a weapon. But imagine free, limitless energy forever. No more need for fossil fuels, no more need for pollution, just literally free energy. No more nuclear, no more water, hydro. You don't need any of it.
No more coal.
Yeah.
There's a document that was released, and I want to say it was like 4 days ago. It was one of the... whistleblown documents, and it has a plan. It's the alien invasion plan, as it were, and it talks about how the citizens anybody with a phone or radio, anybody who can receive a radio signal will receive an alert to go to the nearest fallout shelter. And then once the citizens are going where they need to go, the 5 main leaders of the world will get together and decide if they're going to use the nuclear weapon, and I can't remember the name of the weapon. But basically, they're going to launch it, and it's enough to, it's a cataclysmic event. But do they do that and save as many people as they can in these fallout shelters? Because it's it's almost an extinction level event.
Sure.
But this is a document that they have, and it's around the world. All the world leaders have it, and that's why they're that's why they're trying to push for peace, especially the Russian guy, which, by the way, I don't remember seeing Russia's name on this document. But they all have to agree that they're going to launch this.
My thing is, even if
I wish I could remember the name of it.
If you launch a large enough thermonuclear warhead where it causes nuclear winter, fallout shelters don't matter. Again, if you're down there for 5 years, yeah, that sucks, and it's cool that you're alive. If nuclear winter lasts 80 years, there are no plants that, we can recognize as plants anymore. There are no more animals. Everything dies off. You don't have that much food availability down there.
No.
You're dead. Cool, you lasted a lot longer.
I think that's why there's such a big push, too, on the flip side. I know we talk about climate change and all of that, but I also think there's the flip side push for space and planetary travel in general, because if it ever comes to the point where we have to, nuke the Earth, we have to find somewhere else to live.
What makes me laugh is with all this coming out, maybe Trump's Space Force wasn't so crazy. Maybe they're not tinfoil hat
He probably
crazies.
read these documents and was like, we should probably put this together. But you know where that nuclear weapon is aimed? In the ocean. It's not aimed up, it's aimed down. So there are some people who believe that it's not coming from outside. They've been here.
USOs, yeah.
Here comes Godzilla.
Well, they do move in and out of water with...
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if they move the way... If you listen to Bob Lazar and they use element 115 to basically manipulate gravity fields, water doesn't matter.
It doesn't
Right.
matter, yeah.
It's just another thing that you're traveling through. It might as well be air or...
Mhm.
It would really
It's
suck.
like phasing. You just...
I was about to say, it really sucks, though, if, like, they were coming to visit, be like a family reunion, like, hey, guys, just coming to check on y'all, see if you need anything, and then everybody's like, launch the nuke, and it's like...
Yeah.
we
Well,
were
and it
just
was 4
coming to
days
visit.
ago that the Navy pilot, released that video. The video got leaked where there's this sphere just outside of his window before it yeets away, and it's so close, like you can see details. You can see who's in the cockpit, so to speak. And I'm like, is this real? But the congressional hearings has been called now on the UAPs.
What's going on. And again, the thing...
For the first time in 50 years, I think they said.
Yeah, they're just not ignoring it anymore. And the fact that David Grush says sometimes when we either... And again, he himself says we have a complete craft that he thinks we've had for a while. And we have partials that we have either have crashed or we have shot down. One of the two. So, and again, I look at it, people are scared that if they come here, is it for an invasion? Are they so advanced that we are basically like ants trying to fight a people? Like, it's not winnable.
It's us versus ants, yeah.
But it's, like, I don't look at it quite that way. I look at it as their technology advanced or had different materials than ours. It doesn't mean they're more violent or way more advanced. It means that they just had different things. So, like, if you look at element 115, which Bob Lazar said is basically the gravity wave organizer that can allow you to travel through space, time, whatever. If you had that element around and you were like, hey, cool, if we do this to it, everything floats to where we want it to.
It's kind of like Orville, Wright and his brother.
Yeah, we happened
figuring
to
out
have,
how to fly.
Yeah, we had gasoline and coal.
Yeah.
They may have had something different. It doesn't mean that they are more advanced. It just means their starting point was different and they developed in a different way.
Right.
It also doesn't mean they're violent. Like, there's no evidence to show that they are if they are that more advanced than us and violent, we would be wiped out.
But we also have such a sense of violence because our species is violent.
We look at it the way we would handle things if we came across a planet of monkeys chucking rocks at us from tubes, we'd probably wipe them out.
Right.
Because we wipe out bears that don't chuck anything at us but teeth.
Right.
We just decimate their population. So, like, I get where that comes from, but if they were that much more advanced and violent, we'd kind of be wiped out already.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us keep progressing till we can fight them.
I kind of think of it as like, that island of people who are so far, like we've evolved so... the island where they're still like bows and arrows.
Oh, yeah.
And they fly over.
North Sentinel.
I think of it, they probably look up and like, we saw another UFO, in their language or whatever they call it. And like, to me, these beings are like flying over us and we're like, like those people.
Yeah, but we keep shooting them, and I really do think we're shooting them down. Like, I think...
Well, those people have caught some people and eaten them.
They have, but those people went to North Sentinel willingly.
Yeah. We're going to bring you Jesus.
Yeah.
We're going to bring you to a stew pot.
Well,
It tastes good with potatoes.
North Sentinel's a different situation because people showed up and started back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. An Englishman showed up and just started fucking some of the people and measuring their dicks. So they're like, yeah, we don't like white folk no more. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, totally get it. And you know what?
Fair enough, eat them.
Even the governments that are around that area have basically said, if you go over there, we can't do anything for you. Sorry.
Go get eaten.
Yeah.
Good luck,
your
fucker.
Fault.
I'd send all the pedophiles over there personally, like,
yeah,
literally have just a string on a boat that dumps them on the sand. Like, good fucking luck, asshole.
I'd be totally down for that.
Yeah, whatever. But no, like, I don't look at, and again, if it is an invasion and they decide to enslave us, if their technology is that far advanced where we can't fight them, we're fucked anyway, so why worry about it? But I don't think that's the scenario. I think if they wanted to wipe us out and they had the technology, they could have already done it. It's not that difficult. We're soft meat bags.
I mean, look at the energy we're talking about. They have a weapon out of that. You would just...
The fact that they aren't using it as a weapon and apparently aren't retaliating when we shoot down their ships is huge.
Yeah.
Because if China shoots down an American ship, we have a problem. A global scale issue at that
We're about
point.
to have an eagle screeching across the sky going after them.
If they just scratch it, like, I'm going to key your battleship.
Yeah, if you fly into our airspace and don't leave right away, weapon systems or not, we have a problem.
You sent a weather balloon. We've got a problem.
So the fact that if you do believe all this and you do believe we are capable of shooting them down and they aren't retaliating, means they're probably not violent. They're probably just scientists that are like, hey man, could you stop shooting the fucking ships? Like, what the shit?
Yeah. Hello. Honestly, do you want the human species to have the energy that they have? I don't.
So
we're like smart with primal violent brain. Don't give us this.
To a degree, I don't, but I also do. I think there comes a point where if we are given enough tools and don't have to worry about things, when fear goes away, I think a lot of violence goes away.
When religion goes away,
yeah,
a lot of violence goes away.
Yeah, and I think if they are older, more advanced, they've been here for a lot longer or whatever, they're going to have insights into things that maybe we haven't considered or we didn't think were possible. And maybe they can explain it to us a different way. And maybe they do believe in a creator being or whatever. And it's just a different way to look at it that kind of unites everything. You know, maybe they had religion back in whenever and they figured out how to unite everything.
Picture the aliens back in our day.
I mean, yeah,
I just don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt they're younger than us. I do think they have different materials. I think their material science is just so much different than ours. And again, we have a hard time imagining life forms that aren't carbon-based. Life forms that don't breathe oxygen. But imagine they breathe like liquid ammonia. To us, it's just not possible. But for them, it may be that's the planet we were born on. That's what we're talking about. This is all we breathe. You guys breathe oxygen? Fucking weird. Oxygen breaks down metal. How does that work? Like, things that aren't human are so far outside of our ability to consider as possible for most human beings that, again, their technology is their technology. It's just not what we have. We probably want it. And apparently we've been reverse engineering it since 47 in Roswell, which I also firmly believe since we had like the SR-71 in the 50s. And like, I look at that, especially with the military industrial complex. We had the SR-71 in the 50s. We declassified it in the 90s. And even in the 90s, we thought that thing was badass and beyond our capability and technological advancement. It was 40 to 50 years old by the time we saw it. How much further have they gone that we don't know about? Like, how much do they have? And even to the point of where, if you listen to Stephen Greer and David Grush, they believe we have basically what are human-made UFOs that can operate like UFOs. So you also have this weird thing where people may be seeing what they believe are the elliptical craft that we made and are using their reverse engineered technology to scare people. Or
people thought back in the day Hitler had this craft.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Bell and all that crazy stuff and if you listen to David Grush, supposedly the earliest one he's been able to find record of, Mussolini had in either 44 or 45. They got shot down into the sea by the Italians and they recovered it. Which, again, if you look at that, like, what'd they shoot it down with? Bullets? Right. A missile? Like,
and the Chilean government has craft. And they freely tell you, we have shot these down and we have them.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, no one, when you get into this, no one says it's just here. Apparently, it is a worldwide phenomenon.
There's only one country that denies it still, and that's Japan, I believe. Japan is still like, nope, you're not allowed to talk about shit.
Yeah, well, you also can't show genitalia in Japan. Like, they're a weird...
You can buy panties.
I know, but we nuked them a little too hard. They're still a little off. I like the Japanese girls specifically. Just throw that out there. But we have really fucked those people up. We should have... Maybe one was enough. I'm just saying... They're backwards on a lot of shit. They're way forwards and sideways on a lot of other shit. But they're also backwards on some things, which is whatever. Like, they're allowed to be whatever they want to be. We should have just dropped the one. We hurt that country too much. I just, again, my dad was stationed over there. They had a lot of weird rules for Americans, and their men were very effeminate, and it was really off-putting to a lot of the U.S. military, like how a lot of their men were that way. And it's just whatever.
And when Christy was over there with the Navy, she said that in a restaurant, you go walk in, like, think of like a Chick-fil-A with a diner where you could dine in. And there would be stairs painted red with pictures on them that women weren't allowed to go up because they went up to essentially like geisha bars. And she said the military had so many rules about being a female and even getting off the boat in these Asian countries because you could really cause an incident.
Yeah, they just had a bunch of weird rules, and sorry, Japan. I wasn't there. They probably should have stopped at the one. I think you learned your lesson.
Yeah, but you got great food, though.
Oh, I love fucking cuisine, sushi, fucking
so
yakitori. You guys figured that shit out for realsies. You also, I watch a lot of your seafood cleaning videos. You're not very kind to animals. They're very, it's still breathing. Chop, 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 chop. And you're like, oh, that is very much alive
the
still.
Octopus leg is just gone.
That's
He's still alive.
Thing you see like randomly on TikTok when you like scroll and then suddenly like, well, I can't unsee that now.
Well, this yellowfish tuna is still pretty squirrely. Oh, you're just gutting it while it's still flopping. Cool. Could you kill it first? No. Glad you're making it
They're
suffer.
just serving the octopus legs as he lives.
Yeah.
And is desperately trying to get away.
They're an aggressive people towards the sea.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. Again,
that's why kaiju attack them.
Not a lot of land for cow and such. Not a lot of land mammal area because it is an archipelago. However, they're really taking it out on those sea creatures for whatever reason.
To swim here from the U.S.?
Yeah. Knife, knife, knife. So, anyways, David Grush is going to be apparently making some more statements coming out. Dr. David Greer is, again, getting ready to go in front of Congress, and he has lists and names and what they've seen and who they worked for, and it's really interesting when you get into what he's calling the Disclosure Project, because he's still a doctor. Like, I think he retired recently, but up until 2018, 2019, he was a trauma doc in the ER. Like,
yeah,
you got gunshot, he's the man. But he still ran this for free. It was a nonprofit. Like, he didn't make any money doing it. It was just something he was passionate about, which is kind of cool. And they're very scientific in their approach as to how do you have proof? Do you have paperwork? Do you have documents? Can you back this up? Who are you? Who do you work for? How reliable of a source are you? That sort of thing. And for the things that he's saying he believes are real and hidden and basically black ops, it's bananas crazy. And if you get a minute, check out the Disclosure Project.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing. But I'm ready for the invasion.
Keep a lookout, see what's coming. One day this podcast will just end. And the reason why it'll probably just end is because the alien invasion happened and we have no... Actually, no.
I'm still podcasting.
I was going to say, we're going to still podcast somehow and get all this out. And we will be the main hub of the alien invasion at that point.
I told my wife I have made a deal with the Lord that he is allowed to take me after, and only after, I kill one alien. Just one. I want the tall grays to be sneaking around in the backyard. I'm going to shotgun blast one of them fucks. And the next one that comes up is going to see me with a fire and a spit roasting a tall gray leg. And he's going to think twice before he creeps around the fucking house. I really want to put the fear of God, maybe we leave him alone. And then you could just take me. I'm ready at that point. Also, I want to taste alien meat. Maybe it's delicious.
If they ingest ammonia as part of their way to sustain, you probably are going to see God fairly quickly after that.
You know, a lot of most seafood ingests ammonia, right?
Well, I'm saying if it's high concentrations of it or something like that, or something
you can burn ammonia out,
like arsenic or something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah. You know what? If that's how I go, so fucking be it.
God said you could kill one. And
I got the one.
It, you just died from eating it.
But I imagine them being like, "Hey, we're just looking for somewhere to." Oh, what is he doing? No! And then just running away.
Be sure to snap a picture of the foot, though.
Oh my god! Oh, it's going live. I'm gonna have just live stream of me just It'd
be like the barbecue contest on Netflix.
Yeah, American Barbecue Showdown.
And Chris is just, instead of like the big pig, he's just got the alien leg.
Just one. I just got to get one.
Where's the rest of it, Chris? It's none of your business.
I buried it for a slow roast. It's
with the underground pit.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I want to taste it.
See?
Like,
So, my wife thinks I'm crazy, but I'm like, do you know how fucking terrified you would be if you decided to go for a hike through the woods, you walked up on some little people who are roasting a person.
yeah, I'm gone.
You turn the fuck around right away. You're like, whatever is going
I
on.
need to get involved with this.
Or-
I hope you enjoy your dinner.
Plot twist. It's a kink for them.
I'm okay with that too. Maybe they like being eaten. My wife sure does.
Well, any hoozles.
You know, I waited a long time to bring this up in a podcast. Because,
What?
Becky, you've made fun of me about a lot of stuff.
Yes.
One of those being the moon bases.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Project A119?
It sounds like a delicious barbecue sauce.
Mm-mm. It's where a nuclear bomb was detonated on the moon to eliminate moon bases. Do you know who ran that project?
Who did, babe?
It's one of your heroes.
Carl Sagan?
Carl Sagan. I have waited so long.
I know. Listen, I get it.
No, you don't know because you've always made fun of me about it.
Okay, honey, there's a difference between a moon base and hollow moon in general.
Where the fuck do you think they put the moon bases, Becky?
They never said that they were
What do you think they were aiming at?
They never said there was specifically a moon base that they were to talk of making a moon base. You think that hollow Earth or hollow moon already exists?
You're probably also the person who doesn't believe there's bases in
Why are you
Antarctica
just
underground.
trying to shank the mixer?
I was picturing going in the ground.
Also, if we do get invaded, my first stop is the Atlanta Zoo. I've never had panda. I would like to.
Oh, no.
Not a panda.
I'm sorry.
What is happening with you in, like, Asian countries today? Are you okay?
No, it's not just Asian countries. Aliens aren't Asian necessarily. I mean, they could be, but who knows?
First Japan, now China. You're coming after all of them.
If we had do we have any black rhino at the Atlanta Zoo?
I don't know.
If we do, he's fucked. I'm gonna try every animal
I was gonna say,
I've never gotten to eat.
Chris is just gonna have a mukbang of animals that he hasn't had.
Rare endangered species.
The world's ending and he's on Facebook Live. What we have here is a giraffe.
So I tend to believe that if an animal is delicious, we have cultivated it to be a farm animal and we eat it.
Just imagine, like, there's helicopters crashing in the background. People are screaming.
You see the giant, like, UFO.
And Chris is
There's
just
just a big
roasting.
pot of me just walrus.
There's like a fire somewhere, and that's what he uses to start his barbecue.
Have you ever had a capybara? Sounds delicious.
Casey, go get more of that fire. That's not.
Capybara.
Capybara.
He's the
Now
last.
those do look delicious. They're plump.
I
He's
bet they're
the
all, I bet
last-
they taste like rat.
He's the last man on TikTok, just mukbanging it up with all.
Do you
of
know how
these
many
animals.
people would watch his live as the world ends?
I would.
As he eats the most endangered species, the most delicious.
And you would, somebody would still try and cancel you,
Absolutely, I don't give a shit. Fuck
There'd
'em.
be 4 people left on Twitter and
canceling him
canceling
with each other.
3 of them would be trying to get me not on
One of them
Twitter.
would be your wife.
She wouldn't come with me. She'd be horrified. But what are you going to do? It's the end
She'd
of
be
the
like, this
world.
motherfucker, I gave him years of my life. He's eating a panda.
Red fox.
Oh.
You stop it right now.
I'm saying if it is the end, I'm going for
And
whatever's
a red
handy.
panda? Don't eat a red panda.
Whatever I can grab.
He'd be like,
Not koala, because they have the smooth brains and they don't get to realize I'm murdering them. So it's not as fun. But the smarter animals, dolphin,
This is,
killing him with a hammer. I want him to know it's coming. I want him to
Wow.
see it.
what is this? Oh. The good news is you can walk 15 minutes down the street and get a nice Coke
would
to go with
you
it.
eat a people just to know?
No. I'm not a monster.
This is the stupid.
I'd rather eat a person than a dolphin.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast because
Why not? We're here.
shoot, man.
You know what, though? I've always thought, like, what if you walked out back, other than Chris, who's going to kill it and cook it? But if I saw an alien, like, how would I show that I'm not a threat? Because what if you put your hands out and they're like, she's got magic?
So supposedly,
You just like take your tits and shake them at him.
That's kind of what I twerk at them.
if you believe everything a lot of these whistleblowers have said about when they've had to deal with the ETs or the ERIBs or whatever they're called,
Or the IUDs.
they those are cancer causing. They're copper. They speak like telekinetically. Basically, it's like a psychic thing.
But can you imagine? I've got so much shit in my head, and I know you do too, and you do too. I'm gonna be singing "Diggy Diggy Hole," and they're gonna be like, "She's digging a hole to kill us."
So I think they're gonna look at me and be like, "We come in peace," and I'm like, "What the fuck is? Are you eating one of us in your brain?" Like, no.
They're gonna look at my brain, and all they hear is the AOL dial-up noise.
It's also peace. I also come in peace. Come on in, buddy.
In pieces. They're gonna look at mine and just hear like 5 like songs going at the same time. There's gonna be boobs because I'm gonna be like, does he have a penis? Like, what? Get out of here! She's crazy.
See a big spit roast of a zebra just spinning in my brain. What the shit?
Alrighty.
What is wrong with humans? Get out of here!
Well,
hope you're not an endangered animal when the end hits, because I'm coming for that ass.
Did you eat a lion?
100%. It's just a cat. Who cares?
okay, well, that was fun, guys.
Accidentally ate horse in Canada.
Horse is actually not bad. Like,
it's
chewy,
succulent. But
this podcast
it makes a
into,
good
like,
jerky.
a
I had
gourmet
no idea, but they eat horse in Canada.
horrific gourmet podcast suddenly.
They eat horse in Europe pretty consistently, and they have a grading system for it, like we do.
I think it was on like MasterChef or one show. One of the signature dishes, the guy had cooked horse, and they're like, "Oh, you should have told us." And it's like,
why?
Why? It's food.
How's it different than cow?
Yeah.
Or chicken? Or kitty?
Good night.
It's not nighttime.
Goodbye.
Well, stay safe. Avoid Chris at all costs.
If we one
Hope
day,
you're not a delicious food
I was
stuff.
about to say, if we one day go live on TikTok or Twitch and it's just Chris spit roasting food, you know the end is starting.
This is why Chris makes his own butters and stuff. He's planning on how to season
figuring
stuff.
out how to season and sauce them.
Also, if you'd like my signature zebra butter, give me a call. It's made with love and hate.
Bye. How long are you going to let it record before you let Chris know it's recording?
He's doing the intro. It's the alien ship landing.
Oh, my bad.
Dummy. I like how I make these edits just a nightmare.